Guys, I think my camera's dying on me. The last video really pissed me off. I don't know what's going wrong. I've taken 4 takes of this, and I've gotten recording failures on every one of them. So I don't know if this is going to come through. I don't know if it'll even make it to YouTube. But I'm having problems. And it's all due to a JVC Everino, or whatever they call this, camera. But on the Quietpro, it's like, you know, when I think about it, it's like, well, should I even be making these videos? Because I just don't, it's getting more and more difficult every day, every time I try to make one. On the Quietpro, these work off a sealed ear system. These work just like the plugs that you would put, earplugs that you would put in at the firing range. But on this side you've got an external microphone, and what this does is it amplifies the input of the audio through this canal here, and it comes through you're not just receiving audio transmissions from a radio, you're receiving all outside transmissions, or I mean all outside surroundings, just like a hearing aid would be. And you can turn the audio up or you can turn it down. And believe me, the parameters of that are much more enhanced than your actual hearing. So you can actually amplify your surroundings, and that works very well. As far as the Quietpro, I suggest that you pick one up. I think they're very good. I'm sold on them. I think they're very, very good systems. Let me see. I'm just going to touch on a couple things. Jeez. Okay, one of them, I'm going to have to set this down just for a minute. Okay. This is a KVL3000, and I just got this in, and it's still got the protective coating on it. I'm waiting on a charger and a cable, and that should be very nice. It's got the data entry. You can flash these. I don't know exactly what this is loaded with, but it should be interesting to find out. It runs off of Motorola VSAR battery, and that's a brand new battery. I also have a book that I don't think anybody can be without, who deals with programming encrypted modules. A lot of things that you have to go through. I think once you get it down, a lot of it has to do with trunking. A lot of it has to do with just various aspects of programming these encrypted modules. This is a unit that I've been wanting to get in. I only get a couple of these a year. It's an XTS5000 Model 3. And I've dressed this one up. I believe this is sold. It's going to be sold with a stock housing. But I've dressed it up with a FDNY knob and a new antenna and an audio adapter. If you need the audio adapter, I will sell one with that. It's very nice to be able to hold on to the radio with these audio adapters in place. And you do have the option of hooking an accessory to these, and you've got the push to talk here. This radio does have tags. I do want to get in on that just for a minute. A lot of people have been talking about the APX radios, and there's been an influx of a lot of APX radios that have been accelerated, life tested, They've hit the secondhand market. They're selling for, you know, $2,000–3,000. Those radios are $6,000 to $7,000 base price, and the flash options just for the emergency man down button enable is $110. So by the time you get done loading that radio up full of flash options, you're pushing a very, very high price. Each option Motorola charges for, each flash option, each feature set within that radio. A lot of people are getting a hold of these radios, especially not the 5000s so much, but 5000s, they do have some very bad people that are falsifying the Motorola tags. But when it comes to the APX radios, it's a higher tier radio, there's more money on the line, and people are getting very creative about tagging, falsifying tags, and sticking them on APX radios. It's a crime, and what's even worse is Motorola doesn't seem to have any checks and balances in place. They just seem to let these radios that have been accelerated, life tested, programmed with developmental software, those radios are door stops, and they were meant for the crusher, and Motorola just lets people, lets their some of their more unsavory workers that they're unaware of, evidently, just through very few checks, these radios are finding their way out onto the secondhand market. When you're looking at a radio that costs, you know, base price $6,000 to $7,000 and up, you've got to ask yourself, why is that radio with legit tags, factory warranty, why is it being sold, you know, a couple years later for less than half? I mean, I understand that people really want to get an APX radio. I wouldn't mind having one, but at the same time, those radios cost a lot of money, and a lot of times there are people on the message boards, forums, that buy these radios, and they buy them sometimes from established members on boards, and there are a lot of people who are selling APX radios with tags, and they haven't done the proper research when they bought them to realize that those tags are falsified, and that the radios they actually have, you know, that maybe they've noticed that the radio has a speaker issue or has a channel knob issue, something, and they bought it for $2,000 to $3,000. Well, you know, the problem with that is that they will sell the radio and say that it has legitimate tags, but it's not necessarily their fault. They just haven't done the proper research. One place I really think you guys, and I've said this many times to folks on the phone, if you're looking for an APX radio, prepare, you get what you pay for. And that's true in radio communications over really anything else. You get what you pay for. Sometimes you get less than what you pay for, but the APX radios, if you're really, you know, looking to get into the field of APX radios, do the research the sellers. Just because they're very good sellers, they're very honest folks, it doesn't mean that the radio is legitimate. Just because they're represented as legitimate radios doesn't necessarily mean that the seller is fraud. It just means that the guy just didn't pick up on the fact that the radio that he's got in his hands has been tagged with a false Motorola tag that was not done at Motorola. Motorola really needs to be held accountable and hold its employees accountable for just why those radios made it out of the factory. It's their fault, and the ones that have been stolen from public safety, I've seen those on eBay. Well, public safety agencies need to have checks and balances in place to avoid, they get these radios on grant money, then they just figure, well, the radios didn't, they just came to us. We had grant money, and so they don't really consider the actual value of the radios until they're stolen. And some of them have been stolen, showing up on eBay. I've seen them, and usually, well, not usually, but sometimes they will actually, the police department will go onto eBay and they'll look for their radios and they'll find them. But only until they lose their radios do they realize that, okay, well, those radios have encryption. They're tied to networks. This might be a security issue. This could compromise our system. The APX radios, Motorola, it baffles me that they would think that you could actually take a radio that's going to the crusher and let one of the employees throw it over a fence and make its way out of that factory. It just baffles me because a lot of these radios are bought by public safety, and sure, when they go on public safety system, those radios go through a vetting process that's very stringent. And those radios are usually found out to be exactly what they are, good or bad. And but at the same time, there are a lot of officers who buy the radios and will use the radios, whether they should be or not, on duty. And if it's an APX radio and it's not been vetted properly, and it was bought through eBay or a message board forum, that's dangerous. That's dangerous, and that's a lawsuit waiting to happen. That's there's possibility of loss of life due to transmission issues, reception issues. Minutes and seconds count. When you've got a mission critical situation, and the last thing you want to do is be holding an accelerated live tested radio during a very, very critical encounter. And that's something that Motorola really needs to get their minds and their hands around. And I think only until it comes to the point where there's some lawsuits involved for wrongful death that are attributed to accelerated live tested radios that made their way out onto the secondhand market. That's the only time that Motorola is going to actually take notice. That's just my thought. It's just my thought. But anyway, if you really want to know about a radio, first consider the price of those radios. Ask yourself why they're selling, for half as much or even less than half as much as the radios are actually being sold for on the market through the proper channels, through Motorola dealers. And then ask yourself if you really want to throw that much money down a rat hole. Now there's a good place to go, and that's P25 Forums. There's a lot of good folks on there. Just like any message board, there are going to be, a goofball or two, but for the most part, if there is, those people usually don't hang around very long, and they're out. But P25 Forums is the best place to go to identify tags. Ask the seller who is selling the radios if he has pictures of the back tags. Don't spend $2,000 to $3,000 on a radio unless you have photos of those back tags, and unless you can go to P25 Forums or actually verify through your own knowledge that those radios, the radio tags, the firmware, the mace, just all that is legitimate. And it's a very difficult process, but the folks on P25 can handle that. And they're more than willing to, because they have encountered many APX radios that people have paid a lot of money for, and they literally and actually believe that their radios are legitimate radios when in fact they're junk. And it's a shame. It's not necessarily the seller's fault unless the seller is the one putting that tag on and selling it as something that it's not. Anyway, so much for that rant. I do have some. This is an XTS2500I. This is a true XTS2500I. They're immersible. I'm going to be selling these. Some have push-to-talk paddles, some have the button paddle. They've all got the extended channel selectors. Very good radios. Remote speaker mic clips, and with the programming adapters. These do have legitimate tags. They've got the rear gas plug on them too. I've got a lot of these units, and I'm going to be selling these off. What I've done, all my radios have the latest firmware loaded into them. I've worked 16-hour days straight this past week and a half, and I think I've gone over 300 radios in that time, and it's been a very busy time for me. But these radios, I've gone ahead and I've flashed for FPP functionality. I've got the zones where you can go up and down in the zones. It works just like a Model 1.5, except it is internally, and it has the feature set of a Model 3. Now what that means is that if you really want to, you can take, if you have the skills, you have the knowledge, and you have the tools, you can rehouse the unit with a new keypad. These have AES-256 encryption in them, and the encryption's on the board. You can't see that there's a board in here, but there's a keyboard plate, and it's behind this plastic. And on that plate is where they've soldered the APX, I'm sorry, got that on my mind, the AES-256 encryption. So if you do a switch out to a Model 3 keypad in a Model 3 housing, you'll lose the hardware encryption feature because you'll be taking that out. But anyway, these are up for sale, and I'm giving you the very best powerful radio for your money. They've got the latest firmware in them. They've all been fully bench tested. Everything's been done right and properly on them. I've wasted no expense on these units or any of my units. I spend a great deal of time, money, and effort into networking with the proper suppliers in order to give you the very best product that I possibly can and that is out there. So this S-Split is sold, I believe. That's going to be going to a very nice fella, and if the sale doesn't go through, it'll be up for sale. I've got XTLs, I've got XTSs, anything in that line I think I can handle. It'll be interesting to see what that KVL is loaded with. I should get a programming cable, in the, but it's going to take a while for me to figure out exactly what I'm doing with that. I don't know if I can, but I'm going to try. I've got the book, and I'll just have to do the research, and I'll just have to see what I can do with it. But I may resell it. I may just think, well, I'm not big on encryption, and I've got a lot of encryption modules. If you guys do need encryption, I do have a lot of modules available. I've got a lot of parts available, and can pretty much handle anything you need in the XTL line. XTVAs, XTLs, XTSs. I can pretty much handle any of that. If the radios, if you need multiple quantities, I've got that handled. And the radios are mint condition, both internally and externally. Yeah, I'm picking up. That's nuisance delete, by the way. I do have some person, not a person, but a business that's near me that seems to go onto the default channel. But anyway, very good units. Checked out, bench tested. Everything's done right on them and should be very good. But yeah, sorry about the Nacre video. I did the best I could. I've got a very limited amount of time, and as I just mentioned, my workload is staggering right now. So I'm trying to really push to get product in, to get product out. If you need the P25 radios, Astro P25s, let me know. If you're in the market for APX radios, a lot of people have asked me about them. I'm not going to mess with them until the price point comes down to a reasonable price. And right now, the people who are making radios with and falsifying those tags, they should be prosecuted, and there should be accountability, and it should go all the way up to Motorola in the end, because the buck stops with them. They were responsible for letting those radios get into the public sector and the private sector, into the hands of consumers. Let's just put it that way. But go to P25 Forums and look at there's a post called Spot the Fake, and there's a lot of variations of the fake tags that are going around on these APX units. They've also got a thread on there, I believe, that shows actually what those units look like disassembled. These guys are sharp, they know what they're doing, and they care about getting proper radios, having people use proper radios. And they're of the same mindset. They don't understand why these radios are out there. They do understand it. It's because Motorola's just let it happen. But at the same time, they will help you in discerning whether a radio is legitimate or not. If you ask me, I'm no expert. I've got my experience is from working on the radios, from dealing with a lot of radios, but when it comes to programming and when it comes to a lot of these things, the guys on P25 Forums have it all over me, and that's not a bad thing. I've got a lot to learn about these products. I learn every day. Every day's a learning experience. But these guys have a wealth of knowledge, and you do yourself a very good service to go to P25 Forums. Very, very good folks there, and they will look out for you. But don't buy an APX radio unless you literally do the research. Don't buy on impulse, and just watch what you're getting. And the same thing with XTS, and really any purchase you buy. Do the research, and really don't count on anybody but yourself. But in doing your own research, that means finding the right people who can give you the information that you may not have. And if you do have a radio like an APX that's in your possession and you're wondering about that tag, go to P25 Forums and ask, and I think they'll be able to help you. Anyway, guys, this has gone on way long enough. It's going to take a long time to upload. The videos, I'm doing my best with them. And like I said, I don't know what happened to the audio. The audio is probably cut out on this one. I had 3 recording failures, 3 or 4 on this. It took that many takes. But anyway, that's what's going on. If you do need the 2500s, these are Q splits, UHF 380 to 470. And they are FPP enabled, and they're Model 3s. When you put a keypad and a housing on here, it turns it into a Model 3. The work is done on these units. So if you need these radios in quantity, I can accommodate, and these are used units and they show signs of use, but I've priced them accordingly, fairly, and they should be good sellers. Take it easy, guys. Later on.